Hi everyone, it's Fiona here from fionamarks.com, and I am back today with our final primer in our series on astrology and parenting. And in this series, we have been exploring how astrology can inform us as parents, give us confidence, help us to trust our intuition, help us to treat our children as unique and ourselves as parents as unique. And today is no different. We are following up with the theme of relationships and parenting. So let me share the screen with you. So for every chart, there are numerous factors that inform us about what the relationship will be that we have with each of our parents. So I'm going to talk to you mainly about the houses in astrology that relate to our parents. But other important factors to keep in mind are the planets that rule those houses and any planets that are in that house or affecting those planets. So there are many complementary factors that build up our relationship with our parents. And that just reflects the nature of life, isn't it? With some parents, we have very complex relationship because there'll be lots of different factors, maybe competing or non-complementary. And then with some parents, there's just a very simple and pure relationship because it's one planet in one place giving the same message the whole time, or anywhere along that continuum. So today I wanted to speak with you about reflecting on your own relationship with your parents and how you had a particular relationship with your mother and a particular relationship with your father, and how that's reflected in astrology. Now, of course, that also relates to your child too. So we'll try and bring that all together, but let's maybe imagine it mostly from our own perspective, thinking about our own parents. So in astrology, we tend to think of the fourth house as being the area of life that relates to our relationship with our mother. And that is because the fourth house relates to the home and the heart. It's a very nurturing space, and it's a space that's concerned with our inner emotional well-being. And the mother goes in that mix of indicators as well. And we tend to think of the father as the 10th house. And that is because the 10th house is the most visible and active and is usually associated with what we do outside of the house, that is our career. So if you see these two on a continuum, 180 degrees between these two houses, one is inside the home and one is outside the home. And one is the mother and one is the father. So our relationship with our mother is reflected something to do with the fourth house. Our relationship with our father, something to do with all the indicators relating to the 10th house. Now, actually, as quite an aside to that, if you follow my channel in general, I had a really interesting discussion with Fernando Raul Castro about this, and that, in fact, we could think about swapping these indicators or combining them both into the fourth house. So if you're really interested in astrology, I will put that video link in the description. But for general use and for today's conversation, we can think about mother as fourth house and father as 10th house. So let's have a little example here. If you are an Aries ascendant, that is thinking of you as the child, if Aries was the sign that was rising at the time that you were born, then given this model, your fourth house would be Cancer, and therefore your mother, the relationship with the mother would have something to do with that moon energy. So Cancer, the natural sign of the mother and of our emotions. So perhaps that would say something about your relationship. And the father would be indicated by Capricorn, which is a Saturn sign. So Saturn is more distant and in charge of limitations, setting boundaries and letting us know what we can't do. So perhaps as Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and in a way a template for the zodiac because it's the first. We can see that these archetypes of the 4th house in Cancer and the 10th house in Capricorn perhaps reflect a traditional cultural idea that we have of the mother being emotional, soft, nurturing, moon energy, and the father being distant, activating, and perhaps challenging, boundary setting, Saturnine energy. But of course, we're all born at different times during the day and night. So we've all got different rising signs. And let's look at the exact opposite, for example, of Aries, which would be if Libra was the sign that was rising when you were born, then in fact your 4th house would be Capricorn. And your relationship with your mother might have more of that Saturn energy. And it may mean that in your family, your mother was more the one that said no and set the boundaries and was perhaps even in charge of discipline, whereas the father would be Cancer, the 10th house for a Libra ascendant, and be ruled by the moon. And perhaps the moon, in this case, the father was more emotional or more soft or more nurturing. Or more changeable, the moon always moving and changing, right? So, and this goes for each of the 12 ascendants have their own particular combination of the 4th house and the 10th house. So if you want to find out about that, I'm sure you can find it online, or just drop me an email for your specific ascendant. Or of course, if you want to chat it over, come and have a session. We'll talk all about your own relationship with your parents. But let's bring it now to an example. And we've already looked at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, so I've left them here in the presentation for us. Prince Harry, if you'll notice where it says ASC there, is a Capricorn ascendant, meaning that the 4th house is counted from this ascendant 1, 2, 3, 4, making the 4th house Aries ruled by Mars. And therefore the 10th house, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, is Libra ruled by Venus. And in the case of Prince Harry's birth time, Venus was in Libra, whereas at the birth time, Mars, who rules the 4th house, was in Sagittarius. Now, let us not get too detailed about this, but just to begin thinking about these ideas. From this, we could say that perhaps in Prince Harry's life, his mother was the more active parent because Mars is a very action kind of energy. And Aries is a sign of finding one's own path, of, that like mountain goat climbing through the mountains and getting to the top of the rocky outclimbs, a journey that one is finding oneself. So perhaps his relationship with his mother, she was perhaps the more active parent, engaging, challenging, hopefully in a playful way. We kind of know her personality, so that's what we think. And perhaps going her own path. Whereas if we think about the father here in the 10th house of Libra with Venus in the 10th house, perhaps we can say that the father is a little bit more got that feminine receptive style of energy, and perhaps a little more, his words perhaps a little bit more step back than the more active parent. And then interestingly, what we could just observe straight away would be that in terms of these two parents, one is in the 12th house, which is over here in Sagittarius, the 12th house of loss. And so the sense that one is going to lose one's mother, or that relationship becomes distant, perhaps indicated by the ruler of that being in the 12th house, whereas this parent, 10th Lord in the 10th house, has a strong and ongoing presence, so has stayed exactly the same, unchanging. And maybe that is something that we could associate with the father, maybe he is unchanging. Okay, and let's contrast that with Meghan Markle's birth chart. She is a Cancer ascendant. And that means that if we count from Cancer, 1, 2, 3, 4, her fourth house is Libra, meaning that the mother, the relationship with the mother might have more to do with Venus and Libra. And then if we keep counting from the fourth house, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the 10th house is Aries, and her birth time puts Mars, the ruler of Aries, on her ascendant. So there's a few interesting things to note here. One is, as we noticed last time, these guys have a mirror image chart, right? So it's kind of great. It's that yin yang thing. No wonder we're attracted to each other. But it does mean that you and I are looking at like a mirror image of parents. So that's good. We could also notice that actually Mars is in its least happy place in the sky when it's in Cancer, and Venus is also in its least happy place in the sky when it's in Virgo there. So maybe both of these parents, the relationship not quite at its best, or Meghan may feel that that her own energy is perhaps stronger in some ways than her parents' energy, because both of these parents' planets, the relationship, that the planet that rules the relationship is in the houses or the space in the sky where it doesn't perform as well. Here we could say, like, my guess is that actually Meghan Markle was very close to her father, because we've got Mars on the ascendant there. So, but as we said, not in its happiest place. So very tender, some real tender bruisings to this relationship. And I'm sure it's been a very painful experience, what has happened between her and her father. And then with the mother, I think we could notice that what we saw, two things. One, we don't see that much of the mother, especially considering how vocal one side of Meghan's family is about complaining about her. We could imagine that Meghan's mother could be cashing in on her fame, or on the cover of every magazine, or trying to sell her book or whatever. But I personally haven't noticed a lot of that. So we kind of, again, got that receptive energy from Venus. Rather than being out there and active, she's a little bit more behind the scenes, even though she's an independent person in her own right, and we're aware of that, but it's not like she's hogging the limelight. And then the only other thing that I would think is really sweet is I really liked how Prince Charles and Meghan Markle's mother, they kind of walked out of the wedding ceremony together or something. There was kind of like this nice energy that, and just noticing that that Venus relationship is there from Meghan's perspective for both of them, or from the couple's perspective. Those parents, Prince Charles and Meghan Markle's mother, had the same position, that Libra place in the sky for both of them. So what we could say is that everybody's relationship with their parents is quite different and unique. I wonder if you reflect on your own parents and notice one as being more active and one as being less active. Perhaps one was easier for you to get along with and one was harder to get along with. And we might see that reflected in your chart as we do here. So let's have some reflection questions for our chat with our parent coach this week. Did you notice that you had a different relationship with each of your parents than your own siblings did? Because this is, every sibling is going to have their unique 10-4 relationship with the parents. So did you notice that? And did you sometimes envy that one of your siblings had a way of getting on with a parent that was just easy, whereas no matter what you did, there just wasn't any click there, or there was real friction there? So, and if so, isn't that interesting? Let's have a look at the astrology of that. And then, do you notice in your individual children that they have a different way of perceiving you as a parent? So one of your children may have an easy relationship with you, and another child may have a more difficult relationship with you, even though you're the same parent. You're parenting in the same family under the same circumstances, perhaps even the same gender, or very similar ages or very different ages, who knows. But from the child's perspective, their relationship with you, so your child's relationship with you in the child's chart, is unique to that child. And well, either you may be trying to be as sweet and soft as you can be, and the child perceives it as being difficult anyway, or the other way around, that you may get huff and puff and puff and puff, and that child just never worries about it, doesn't ruffle them at all, because in the chart that they have, their relationship with you is an easier connection. So that'll be fascinating to reflect on. And do you notice with your parenting partner that two things: they have a different way of relating to the child than you do, and the child has a different way of relating to your parenting partner than to you? That's really the question, the first question. And the second one is, do you notice with your parenting partner that they have a different way of parenting than you had in your archetype with your own parents? So if you had mother discipline, father soft, do you notice that in the parenting relationship, you're playing one role and you think the other parent will play that, but they don't, or they do with one child and not with the other? So this is where the nuances, it becomes quite hard, all the interrelationships, to even articulate them. And that's the final question, which is, how do you in your own family now, this family that you're growing with and that you're giving your attention to, how do you guys manage all those interrelated and intergenerational relationships? Because a part of our parenting experience is that we are resolving our relationship with our own parents. Obviously, we're trying to pass on the bits that we thought were good, and we're trying to adapt the things that we felt didn't work so well. And yet, as we do that, that's kind of the mission that we're on. The receivers of that, the children, are having their unique ability to connect to that or not, depending on where their fourth house is and where their 10th house is. So this is a big interrelated web of intergenerational relationships. And I'm really fascinated about how you experience that, where you laugh and giggle about it and where you get frustrated about it. So I hope that you will share that, reach out, be in touch if you want to talk more about that, and that you will join me when I chat with Amy all about this in our one-to-one discussion with her about astrology and parenting. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that will wrap up our series for now. But I have a few other ideas of other topics. So maybe we'll explore these in some other way later. Did you know in astrology, there is something called Digbala, where it shows us quite specifically with data, like a number, how well we can hear the energy of a planet. So, you know, how you can be really in tune intuitively to particular things, but you can completely miss other things. So I think that's really interesting when we're looking to have productive relationships with our children, or supportive relationships, or inspiring relationships with our children. What can they hear? What are they open to? I think that's a really fascinating topic. Another bala, so balas are the strengths of the planets, is Chester bala, which is where someone naturally feels confident in a planetary energy. And I think this really applies to children. As you see them, you know that the gifts that they have inside, and how they perhaps sabotage themselves from sharing that with others. And how do we help our children connect to their areas of lacks of confidence and just take steps towards sharing that more and being more active with that planet. So I think that's fascinating. And then the idea of having, if you remember way back in our first primer, we talked about this significant demarcation between a malefic planet and a benefic planet. That is a planet that's challenging for malefic, a planet that's demanding and makes you work hard for the rewards. When we have that on the ascendant, we can be perceived as others as being a bit more difficult, and we sort of go around making life hard for ourselves. And this can really help us understand our children too. When we see a child making things difficult, and no matter how easy it might look from the outside or how supported it might be they are from the outside, inside there is this innate predisposition to see things as being difficult. So that can help us really connect with the child and be in rapport and come from a place of assistance and service there. Anyway, so those are a few ideas of other astrology and parenting topics that I'd love to follow up with you. And you may have your own ideas, and please let me know. Thanks very much for accompanying me and Amy through this process and all of your feedback. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay. Thanks and bye for now. Let me say goodbye properly. Bye. See you with Amy later. Bye-bye.